What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nirenstein and this is Vehicle Virgins. Today I'm going to show you exactly what it's like to drive the new Ferrari 488. This is the 488 Key. Looks nice, pretty basic. Lock, unlock features as well as the trunk. The front has been completely redesigned compared to the 458 with dual splitters in the front. As you'll notice, the headlights are very similar. Let's go ahead and pop the trunk. 8.1 liters of space. The fact that it's able to fit all of my camera gear in this trunk is very impressive. Much, much larger than the trunk in the Huracan or the Audi R8. Let's do a brief walk around the car. Now, I did do a full review on the 488. I've got a link in the description below for that, so make sure to check that out. I talked a lot more about the car instead of just what this thing is like to drive. But I really wanted to highlight the driving experience because it truly is spectacular and go over some of the things that I missed in the review itself. Notice in the rear, we actually don't have a wing. We've got this vent that allows air to pass through here for additional downforce. That combined with the front splitter and rear diffuser means 50% more downforce than the Ferrari 458. This is the Powerplant in the 488, a 3.9 liter twin turbocharged V8. That's a very controversial element of the car, which I will talk a little bit more about. Turbocharging is not something I believe Ferrari wanted to do, but instead they had to comply to emissions reasons. But it did result in a massive power increase, 660 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. Now, sitting inside the interior of the 488, very spacious. We've got plenty of headroom, massive front window, side windows, and tremendous rear visibility, better than most cars that I am used to driving in this segment. Lovely blue leather interior, contrasted white stitching. The outside is finished in Bianco Avis, and we've got these painted 20-inch wheels, one of 5 wheel options. These seats are the $10,500 Gold Drake racing buckets. They are manual in their adjustability. You pay more for less in this case, but they feel very nice. They hold you in place well, and they are quite comfortable as well. A ton of controls on the steering wheel. The horn is not here, but instead located on the rim itself, to the left and to the right. The actual turning indicators are these buttons here and here. We've got a button to control the suspension to change it from normal to bumpy road mode in case the road gets tough. This is the stop-start button. We'll go ahead and fire that up. The Magneto dial has several different driving modes: wet, sport, race, CT off, and ESC off. I prefer race. That is my favorite mode. To the right, we've got the controls for the infotainment. Honestly, the quality of the knobs themselves isn't all that great. I'm kind of shocked, actually, in a Ferrari. We've got the climate controls down here, the center bridge for reverse, auto, and launch, the window controls here. Now, to the left, we've got more controls that allow you to change different settings on the left screen, off to the left of this center mounted tachometer. Right now we are in turbo mode. That will show you how many pounds of boost the turbos are making. VDA, vehicle dynamics display, will show you all your different settings from F1 track to ABS, ESC, which will change depending upon what mode you are in. Let's go ahead and take this thing for a spin, shall we? We'll go ahead and click the auto button, which will, surprisingly, put it into manual mode. When you initially get into the 488, you'll notice that there is a little bit of play in the throttle. I believe they thought the 458's response was almost too twitchy, so they've given you that little space of play. It takes some getting used to, but after that, you've got one of the most linear throttles I've ever felt in a non-naturally aspirated car. The brake pedal feels great, takes a decent amount of effort to slow the car down. We've got carbon ceramic brakes on this, but once you're actually pressing the brakes hard, oh my gosh, does it slow the car effectively. We've got the 7-speed double clutch transmission from the 458, although we've got 30% quicker shifts. Downshifts are absolutely telepathic. Upshifts are as well. I mean, the second you think you want to shift the car and your finger just grazes over the paddle, you've already shifted gears. That's how quick it truly is, and it adds to the driving experience. We've got an optional carbon fiber steering wheel with LED shift indicators. It's a $7,600 steering wheel. Almost don't even feel important enough to be grasping this wheel, but when you are up in the RPM range, it will light up to let you know when to shift. Very cool. Oh my gosh, this car is fast. Some performance statistics for you. The 488 makes 660 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 happens in just 2.7 seconds, and the quarter mile in 10.6. That is ridiculous. Curb weight, 3,250 pounds, giving it a tremendous power to weight ratio, which really makes this thing fun in the turns. But one of the best parts of the 488 is its steering feel. Gonna go ahead and click the turning indicator there on the wheel itself. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but honestly, once you're used to it, it's just like second nature. Click it again to turn it off. The steering feel is very much like a GT3 RS. I reference that car a lot because in my opinion, what Porsche has done with that car has created one of the most engaging, best steering feels on any modern day vehicle. And Ferrari has created something very, very similar. The steering is heavier than the 458, but very direct and precise. I honestly enjoyed the steering more than in the 458. Gives you a tremendous amount of confidence around turns. Honestly, for a car this fast, for you to have this much confidence, it's pretty staggering what they've created. And the great part is, because the steering is so nice, you don't actually have to drive this car flat out to get enjoyment out of it. A lot of Ferrari 488 owners aren't gonna push this thing every single day. Not gonna push it to its true potential. You shouldn't push it to its true potential on the road anyways, but let's be honest, a lot of people are just going to cruise around in their 488s. The good news is, it's so engaging to drive even at lower speeds. That's not a crime, and these customers are gonna get an enjoyable experience even when they are not driving very, very aggressively. One of the greatest worries with the 488 is the fact that it's turbocharged. How is that going to destroy the sound? Is it going to have immense turbo lag? Well, it turns out neither of those are really true. While it doesn't sound quite as good as the 458's piercing 9,000 RPM naturally aspirated V8, it does sound really good. It doesn't have quite the high-pitched howl of the 458, but it sounds fantastic in its own right. Ferrari has employed boost by gear to limit the boost in the lower RPM ranges to eliminate some of the harsh noises and kind of poor sound quality associated with the turbocharged V8 at low RPMs to kind of mimic that naturally aspirated V8 sound, and they've done a great job at that. In terms of turbo lag, you can't tell whatsoever. The only real indication that this vehicle is turbocharged is the sound of those wastegates. When you step on the gas and let off, this lovely whooshing releases behind your head. Oh, that's intoxicating. Ferrari employed very low friction aluminum and titanium impellers in the turbos, so they spool up instantly. They're working on electronically controlled turbos that are able to be spooled up independently of the RPMs, where you are in the RPM range. That will be really cool. Another highlight of the 488 is its Magneto Rheological dampers. The magnetic ride suspension is constantly scanning the road and able to adapt in just a matter of milliseconds to allow this car to be on-track ready and also to be able to be driven on a daily basis. It also allows you to be flat out more of the time over bumps because the suspension is constantly adjusting. You feel confident even when the road is a little bit unsettled, and that is just a fantastic thing. Now we've got Ferrari's latest F1 track as well as eDiff technology that works in conjunction with side slip control. Now what is side slip control? Well, essentially it is Ferrari's version of variable drift control, like in the McLaren 720S, that allows you to slide, and it aids you in doing so. It's not a button or anything you click to activate. It simply works in the background. And if you start drifting the car and your slip angle increases, it actually loosens up the magnetic ride suspension, softens that up, so it's a little bit more supple and easier to play around with in the turns and when drifting. How cool is that? Oh my God, this thing is awesome. Let's listen to that V8 for a second. I mean, you can't say that that sounds bad. You just can't. Pretty good isolation as well in here. You could honestly daily drive this car. It's comfortable, it's practical. You've got a ton of space up there. The seats are comfortable. The 488 is so technologically advanced that it's actually half a second faster around Ferrari's test track, Fiorino, than a 458 Speciale. That's the more hardcore version of the 458. That's pretty staggering for the entry-level 488. They've since come out with the 488 Pista, which of course will be even faster than this. I can't imagine how awesome that car is to drive. Some random facts about the 488 that probably don't matter. 15 miles per gallon in the city and 22 on the highway, although when driving it at any sort of speed, it definitely gets a lot worse than that. Overall though, there's all these preconceived notions that the 488 lacks character, that it's less exciting than the 458, and I honestly disagree. Because of those twin turbos, yes, you lose some of the sound quality, but because you don't have any sort of turbo lag, you also get that full 560 pound-feet of torque available at 3,000 RPMs. That means I'm in fourth gear right now, you step on it, it thrusts you back into your seat much harder than the 458 would. You'd have to downshift a couple gears to get into the right part of the power band. That develops its maximum 398 pound-feet of torque, significantly less, at a 6,000 RPM. So you've got to be all the way up in the rev range to get any sort of power out of the car, which is fun in its own right, but this is easier to use. You're going to get more of the power more of the time. And I enjoy the fact that we still have an analog tachometer. Everyone's going digital nowadays, but it feels right to have this massive tachometer in the center of a Ferrari with that red needle and prancing horse behind it. Like I said in the review, after driving the 488, I've completely changed my opinions on the car. What many people thought was a lackluster, boring Ferrari that, yeah, sure, it was faster, but less desirable than a 458, that isn't the case whatsoever. When you get behind the wheel of the 488, lovely E63 right there, all of that goes away. It truly is a mesmerizing, enjoyable experience. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review and what it's like to drive the 488 from a first-person point of view. Let me know if you like this style of video in the comment section below. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again to Ogara Coach of Westlake, California for providing me with this car. It's available there now. I look forward to seeing you guys next video.